Yes, good morning, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to give this presentation. So I'll be talking about the production of green fuels, and in this case, green ammonia. So a little bit about Skovgaard Energy. We are a small company. We are expanding slowly. So we are based on development in wind turbine projects, and the company has built up a portfolio of 70 to 80 wind turbines, but that has been divested a few years ago because the company wanted to go into new areas, so power to X, because you should understand how the power grid is in Denmark, that we are the country with the most variable renewable energy in our power grid. So it means for the last 6-7 years, I would say, there has not been set up more turbines, a lot of PV parks, but especially turbines, and also today PV parks has stopped because there's no room for this additional variable renewable energy. So in order to make room for more, we sold the turbines. We focused on how to have these flexible consumers, as I call them. So if we develop new turbine projects or PV parks, we have to establish the consumption ourselves, as well as being on the grid. So our vision is, in short, to develop new energy systems and having these, climate friendly, you could say, but try to integrate existing with new systems. So our first project is this what we call REDUP. It's a renewable dynamic distributed ammonia plant. And you could say, what is new about this? It is dynamic in the sense that we have our own power production. You can see it on the photo. We have 6 turbines, 2 megawatt each. The plant is a 10 megawatt plant, nominal. So we produce our own power. We can export to grid, or we can consume the power ourselves. Yes, you can see the PV park. It takes up a lot of space. It is located together with turbines. And this will give you an idea of, when we talk about power to X, the area it takes up. And of course, you should not produce green ammonia from other power sources than renewable power sources. It wouldn't make sense to produce power from coal or gas to produce ammonia. So only from renewables. And here, when we started, we were thinking of having a behind the meter. It is still behind the meter, but we're allowed to get grid connected. So there's a lot of regulations we have been struggling with in this project as well. So it's a first of its kind in the world. And here we're trying to, you could say, maximize the usage of the turbines and the PV park. Because this year we have been curtailed around 20%. And then people ask, what is the efficiency of the ammonia plant? It is actually around 50%, but when we stop our turbines and PV park, we're losing 100%. So this is also an energy storage project. And I would have to mention our project partners. So the synthesis is based on Topsoe technology, and the turbines is from Vestas. So together we have got funding from Danish EUDP. It's Danish funding. It has nothing to do with EU. And we have mechanically completed the plant. We are very close to produce ammonia. So the electrolysis has been activated. We have tested all the systems. So what is missing is the ammonia synthesis. So for the people who doesn't know what ammonia is and how it is produced, so we're using, as always, hydrogen and nitrogen. We combine to produce ammonia. So hydrogen we get from water. We split the water in electrolysis, and the oxygen is vented. We clean the hydrogen. We mix it with nitrogen that we get from the air. And yes, then we can produce green ammonia. I mean, this figure is very simple, but you should imagine that we're trying to combine two sectors here. So it's renewable energy together with a petrochemical plant, you could say. And that is not easy to do, combining two sectors, to understand all the, you could say, challenges you will meet in such a project. But by doing the project, we have learned a lot, and we have still a lot to learn. So in the production, it's technical, but as well as commercial aspects. So how are we going to sell the green ammonia? It can be used for fertilizer, chemicals, as today, but it's also a green fuel for ships, as well as green fuel for power production. So a bit about the process layout. So in the top you can see the electrical front end. It's from ABB, so it's one transformer to two rectifiers. Each rectifier is feeding two pairs, or each rectifier one pair. So in total we have two pairs of NEL electrolyzers. And the nitrogen we get from PSA. I think most people, they would not consider PSA for ammonia production. But the nitrogen we get here is as pure as the hydrogen we can produce with the electrolyzer. So we have a common deoxidizer to clean this mixture, and then we can feed it to the synthesis. So we have a compressor. So we're going from near atmospheric pressure up to 150 bar before we feed it into the topsoil ammonia synthesis. So the demonstration here is how to make this ammonia synthesis. It's you could say, a simplified Haber-Bosch. How we can make it work dynamically. So with the wind and the sun, with the power production going up and down in load, that's what we have to demonstrate. And we have made a lot of dynamic simulations. It works. I mean, it looks like it works. I have a gut feeling, of course, it works. The ammonia converter here, since it's a small plant, it can produce 1 ton per day. So it's not a lot. So it's like this 5,000 to 6,000 tons per year we expect to be able to produce. And we can store the ammonia on site for up to 2 days production. And then there will be trucks coming to pick up the ammonia. A bit about the synthesis itself. So the general understanding or perception, you could say, of a Haber-Bosch synthesis is that it is steady and slow to operate. It consumes a lot of energy, and the loop pressure would fluctuate with the capacity, which is also true. So it is slow in ramping because of these big furnaces used for reforming. And we have steam systems to recover heat, to drive big turbines. So everything here is slow. So it's not adapted for dynamic operation, you could say. But what we do here is we'll have everything electrified, so no steam turbines. That means we can have a dynamic ammonia synthesis. And here we can have it even without a hydrogen storage. So when we can produce hydrogen, we convert it directly to ammonia. So no need for hydrogen storage because it's expensive and there's a safety issue as well. What is new here is also that we can stop and start the plant once it's in a hot condition. We can do that within 10 minutes, and that is something new. So I've been working in an ammonia plant as well. It takes like 2 to 3 days to start up a plant. You're consuming a lot of gas, and you're not producing anything. So that's very costly. And people from the industry, they will look at this plant and say, how is this possible? I mean, you can start in 10 minutes. Yes, that's what we're going to demonstrate. We have here behind the meter. It's important in the sense that these projects, you can only have them where you have abundant of renewable energy. So we can save tariffs. People say, that, yes, that's not a lot, but in principle, it is a lot. Because if you only pay for the energy you produce, we don't pay for it other than the investment it takes. But the tariffs will add amount on top of the cost production here. We can keep it in hot standby for, say, up to 1 week. So during nights where the power prices are high, we can stop the plant. When we get the wind back, we can restart the plant within 10 minutes. So by having this flexibility, we can have this dynamic plant. And it's important for the total production cost, you could say, because compared to a standard ammonia plant, we cannot operate 100% all the time. If we will do that, we will require power from the grid, and that will be expensive. So to produce all the time. So we have a challenge here, right? So we invest 100%, but we can only use it like we expect 60%, 65 maybe. So that's the trade-off. So having reasonably cheap power compared to a reasonably high capacity factor, you could say. So finding that sweet spot is, of course, important. I would say this ammonia converter here is new, it's special, because it's the first time we have a design that is adapted for small plants, because this is a demonstration plant, and it's also adapted for very big plants. So with this, we can scale up. So we're only making one demonstration. We can scale up, so from 10 megawatt, we can go to 100, 1,000, or several gigawatts. It will be the same design, you could say, just bigger. And here we are using classical alkaline electrolysis. So if we can use a classical technology to demonstrate this dynamic plant, we can use any of the newer technologies that could respond faster, etc. So the operating window here will be between 15 to 100%. The 15% is dictated by the electrolysis technology, as well as the dynamics, 10% per minute, up or down. It's also dictated by the electrolysis. But you have to consider that for this small plant, it might seem to be, you could say, the limiting factor, but if we're making a big plant, we could have clusters of electrolysis. And with the forecasting, etc., we could move or operate the plant a few minutes ahead. And in principle, this is all about maximizing the usage of the wind turbines and the PV park. So if we want to have more of that, we have to be able to maximize the usage. Otherwise, it's too expensive. We cannot put up more turbines in Denmark, nor PV parks, unless we get these flexible consumers. And then you could say, it's all about energy storage. This is actually a technology where you can store the electrical power in the form of liquid ammonia. So the purpose of this is, of course, to also balance the power grid while we're producing green fuel. So if we want to limit the usage of natural gas or other fossil fuels to produce power, we need to get more renewables. But in Denmark, we have hit that limit. So if we want to have more turbines and PV parks, we have to get these flexible consumers. And then a bit about what to use ammonia for as well, since we are here in this sector here, in the marine sector. What is interesting for you guys, I suppose, is that we have a project here that will be located next to the ammonia plant. It's a project with DTU, the Danish Technical University of Denmark, as well as MAN. Now they're called Everlens. But it is to put up a genset with a 4-stroke engine. It is a fuel flex, so it's not dual fuel. We don't need a pilot fuel here, as you will see in the typical ammonia engines you have read about or seen in press releases. This is neat ammonia we can combust, no pilot fuel. Fuel flex means, since the ship owners would like to be able to run on diesels as well, it can do both, either diesel or ammonia, not both on the same time. And this is a 3 megawatt engine, and we can produce 1.3 megawatt of power. And then you could say, I mean, we've been discussing ammonia as a fuel for the maritime sector. As Trond mentioned, the IMO has set a pause on how to move further to get ammonia on the ship, or green ammonia, you could say. Then it is not something new, you could say, ammonia as a fuel. So there's a few photos here from the 1920s. It's been used as a fuel, as during the Second World War in Belgium. The bus you can see has used ammonia as a fuel. So it's possible, but the thing is, it's of course much more expensive than bunker fuel. So in recent years, there's been a lot of talk about power to X, but the X to power is also important. So in Denmark, where we have a high contribution from variable renewable energies, we need something else in order to get more of that into the power grid. And that is the flexible consumers. And then you could say that with the X to power, it has to be relatively cheap because it's not going to be used a lot of the time. So as standby, as reserves, it has to be low capex. And then I talk about ammonia, but for the maritime sector, you also talk about methanol. But I would say that the green carbon, it should be reserved for something else that you cannot easily decarbonize. For example, for aviation fuel. So our next project, the scale-up in PTX, is actually for producing of eSAF based on biogas. And yes, we want to demonstrate this technology, so the X to power. So producing power on the ship is one step forward. So we don't want to start with propulsion on the ship because it takes a lot of green fuel. And we have been struggling with selling this green ammonia as green ammonia. We can always sell it as ammonia, but that's not a good business for us. So the figures just shows that the high contribution of variable renewable energy in Denmark in the power grid. And you can see some of the other countries in Europe, they're getting there. But since we are there first, we have to find the solution first because we have the headaches first. I don't know how it is here. I don't think you have that high contribution of variable renewable energy, but eventually the other countries will get there. And then the PTX as a variable consumer will be very important. So, thank you. That's the word.